This is the Almost Timely newsletter for the week of March 5th, 2023. What's on my mind this week? Well, ChatGPT levels up with an API. This week, the big move happened. What am I talking about? Everyone's favorite discussion topic of the day, ChatGPT, leveled up in a huge way with the debut of its API and model. It's called GPT 3.5 Turbo. It's a bit of a mouthful, and I promise, I'm not trying to make this the all ChatGPT all the time newsletter. It's just, this topic is one lots of you replied to ask questions about, and this week's news is a big deal. And quite honestly, when I was putting the news together for this episode of the newsletter, every third article across every topic and every discipline is about ChatGPT. So it clearly is the belle of the ball, if you will. So let's talk about this API. For those unfamiliar, an API, or application programming interface, is a way for one piece of software to talk to another in a standardized, highly scalable way. If you've ever used a service like If This Then That or Zapier, you've interacted with APIs, right, by connecting one piece of software to another. Here's why this is a big deal when it comes to ChatGPT. Up until now, every use case of ChatGPT has been with a human, us, right, inputting a prompt of some kind and receiving a result in the now familiar chat interface. This is how 100% of us have interacted with ChatGPT because this has been the only way to interact with it since its debut. Every use case you've ever heard of, every webinar you've attended, every public talk that's talked about it has been a human talking to the machine through the chat-based interface. The API changes that, changes everything by allowing other machines to talk to ChatGPT now instead of humans, or for humans through their own code to programmatically interact with ChatGPT. What does that mean? Why is that a big deal? Let's say you use this style of prompt. Right? You will act as a blogging professional. You have experience in content marketing, content creation, and blogging, especially corporate blogging. You have subject matter expertise in the architecture industry, especially LEED compliant buildings. Your first task is to write a blog post about the importance of solar panels on new construction designs and projects as a path towards sustainability goals, especially in areas where the power grid is unstable or unreliable. Right? We're all familiar with that style of prompt, and the outputs it generates they're pretty good, right? Here's the problem. You still got to type that in, and you still have to process the output. How long would it take you to write 10 blog posts this way? Still substantially less time than doing it by hand, but it's not exactly a one-button solution, right? To just copy and paste that prompt 10 times, get 10 different posts. Now, suppose you had a piece of software that, instead of you having to copy-paste both the prompt and the results, couldn't simply just ask ChatGPT over and over and over again. Suppose you had a piece of custom software that would repeatedly ask ChatGPT that prompt or variations of that prompt 10 times. How fast would that be? What if it were 100 times? 1,000 times? You see where this is going. Everything that has happened up until now with ChatGPT has basically been letting the kids, us, the humans, play in the playground. With the debut of the API comes power and scale and the avalanche of change that folks have been predicting. Why? Think about it. No one with any common sense is about to hire out a farm of 100 people to copy-paste into ChatGPT all day. That's just a waste. But up until now, if you wanted to scale its usage, that's how you would have had to do it. I've talked to people who own agencies, and they're trying to figure out how they're going to train their employees to use it. With the API, software can talk to ChatGPT hundreds or even thousands of times per minute and leverage the full power of what the software is best at, tasks at scale. How do we know this is a big deal? In the end, it comes down to cost. And this is where OpenAI has come out swinging. In the past 2 years, hundreds of companies and thousands of apps have launched using the OpenAI GPT-3 model as the back-end model. From chat-based guides to content marketing companies like Copy AI and Jasper AI, etc. They're all using the GPT-3 model. However, GPT-3's pricing was relatively high, 2 cents per 1,000 tokens. Now, OpenAI defines a token as a single word. So this article, this newsletter episode so far, up until this point is 613 tokens, which would cost less than a penny if a machine were generating it. That's fine for small use, right? But imagine the cost if you had thousands of users. However, many companies have done so successfully. They have built large content marketing operations on that older model. OpenAI's new pricing on the GPT 3.5 Turbo model that powers ChatGPT was the shocker, like eyebrow-raising shocker for many of us who follow the industry. Ordinarily, your Premier product comes with a Premier price tag, and the price of GPT 3.5 Turbo, 0.2 cents per 1,000 tokens. Yes, as 1/10 the cost of the earlier Premier model. 1/10 the cost. Every company built on GPT-3 just got a 90% price break and a better piece of software. Every entrepreneur that was thinking about how to build a business model on GPT-3, on that family of models from OpenAI, now has the opportunity to do so at 1/10 the cost it would have been 3 days ago. Trust Insights. We've been using the GPT-3 model for some code we work with for clients to generate blog headlines. This week, you bet we're switching over to the new model. We're switching over to Turbo. The implementation to change from one to the other isn't exact. It's not one-to-one. It's not just change the model name, but it's close enough that it should only take a couple hours in total to migrate and then test the code. That's how straightforward it is. It's a big deal. Every use case, every example, every prompt that's been shared up until now has been by humans talking to the machines. This API, this model, opens the door for machines to talk to the machines at the same level of fidelity, with the same amazing generation of feedback, but at massive scale. So, what should you take away from this? If you've already got a portfolio of prompts that you've generated that work well, and you really should if you're a ChatGPT user, now is the time to evaluate those prompts to see which ones make the most sense to convert into real software, right? If you've been using one for writing sales letters, it might be time now to figure out, okay, does it generate consistently good results? Let's turn this into software. Then talk to your developer resources at your company or at your agency or at your partners to scale those prompts you handcrafted into the instructions for software at large, right? If you've been using it to write tweets, guess what? Now you can write a tweet generation engine that can generate, instead of 10 tweets at a time, 10 million tweets at a time. If you haven't been using ChatGPT in your industry, but a competitor has productively, your life is about to get a lot harder, because that competitor, assuming their use case is not trivial, like, rewriting the lyrics to Sweet Child of Mine, they're about to leap ahead in productivity and scale. You have very, very little time to catch up to a competitor that is using the software in a meaningful way. Like days. So if you're not in the game and a competitor is, get moving. Get moving. Learn it fast. I am curious. Reply to this, either in the email or in the comments, whatever. If there's some questions that you have about using ChatGPT that you've not been able to find answers for, let me know. Maybe we'll put together a live stream on it or something. All right, what else we got in the news this week? From our side of things, besides the GA4 course that I'm using ChatGPT to write copy for, I had a piece this week on communities needing publications as a way to glue your community together. So I think that's a useful piece that will help you make your community management efforts a little bit easier. We, of course, have our LinkedIn profile boosting course, Measurement Strategies for Agencies course. Go check those out. Those are totally free over at academy.trustinsights.ai. New jobs this week. We have data scientist at Austin Labs, digital analyst at South Watts, inbound marketing specialist at Clarion Creative, manager of web analytics at Angie, senior analytics engineer at Drumline, senior marketer of digital experimentation at Comcast, and SEO specialist at Clearlink. Also in the news this week, look, more ChatGPT stuff. Snapchat has now integrated ChatGPT into its My AI tool right inside the app. CNET editor-in-chief Connie Guglielmo steps down for an AI-generated content role. CNET's been under a lot of fire for using a lot of AI-generated content without disclosing any of it. So there's more details in that post. More ChatGPT stuff in SEO. More ChatGPT stuff in language models. Yeah, that's what is on everyone's mind. In random dealer's choice, an article on whether non-nutritive sweeteners like stevia are genotoxic. The page is worth checking out. Examine.com is a neat tool, but the short answer is there's no conclusive proof that they are genotoxic, which is good news if you use zero-calorie sweeteners or low-calorie sweeteners. And a fantastic episode of Huberman Lab called "What Alcohol Does to Your Body." Not really much of a spoiler alert. It's nothing good in any quantity. So there's that. That is the news for this week. Thank you for being here. This week I'm headed off to Philadelphia to PodCamp Philly, the first PodCamp I've been to in a number of years. Looking forward to seeing Whitney Hoffman and the organizing team there. Then at the end of the month, I'm headed to London for Martechopia. If you are interested, if you're in the area, use discount code MARSpeaker20 for 20% off the ticket price. That's the news for this week. Thanks for tuning in. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.
If you like this video, go ahead and hit that subscribe button.